smoked chicken. How about you?
Smoked? That's funny.
Thank you.
Toys.
Dr. Campbell, right?
I know who the hell I am. I'm asking who you are.
Crane.
No, toucan.
Medicine Man.
Jesus.
Did I get the wrong kind?
Wrong kind? Mom, this is an illegal weapon. Where'd you get it?
Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. What do these three films have in common? Well, they're among Roger's or my choices for the worst movies of 1992, or maybe we both hated them. But these are the films that deserve one more shot on this special edition of Siskel and Ebert because, as we like to point out every year, they each poison 2 hours of our lifetimes, and that's not a small insult if you think about it. I'm Gene Siskel, the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. Movies can make it onto a worst list in all sorts of ways, and the first entry on my list, The Babe, qualified because it took an American hero and portrayed him as a slob, a bore, and a drunk. Now, I have no doubt that Babe Ruth was all three of those things, often at the same time, but what's the point of making his personal tragedy into a depressing baseball movie? Spending time with this guy was like spending a 3-day bus trip crammed into the corner by a mean drunk.
A brothel in the French Quarter? 4 women at one time? What are you? Some kind of animal? Well, I sit at home, waiting.
Well, you sit at home. Well, you sit at home. You could be out with me. You could be out having dinner with me. You could be out dancing with me. I want you with me, Helen.
I have no doubt a serious movie could be made about a baseball hero with feet of clay. In fact, a lot of movies have been made. But The Babe was advertised as a great time at the movies with a great American pastime, and despite John Goodman's hard-working performance, all we got was a tale of unremitting gloom and self-destruction, occasionally interrupted by a home run. This was one of the most depressing movies of the year.
I didn't like it, Roger, because I think it does try and alternate, have it both ways with that depressing material, which frankly isn't rendered in any kind of a documentary fashion.
No, it isn't. No,
See, it's done in the same style of the sweet moments of him helping the little boy and when he does hit the home
Here
run.
I am, colorful me, getting drunk and falling over and hitting people.
There's no modern quality to the picture, even though it has a modern attitude about the hero, and that's the mistake. And by the way, with good baseball movies having come out recently, like The Natural and Bull Durham, this seemed particularly weak. Okay, next movie, and our next movie is a truly lousy film, Whispers in the Dark, and it contains the year's most ridiculous single scene. The villain, Alan Alda, staggering about a beach with a gaffer's hook planted in his head. I had a real big laugh over that, but it was pure torture getting there in this story of a psychiatrist, Annabella Sciorra, being harassed presumably by one of her nutty patients.
Hey! Hey! What did you go find when my stories made you hot? I left without my prescription. Come here.
Eve, we met by coincidence. It's imperative that you know that.
My shrink has been sleeping with my man. I mean, I know I'm prettier than her.
Eve, let me...
Shut up.
What if it's all...
Actually, the creep turns out to be Alda, playing the shrink who trained her. And when his malevolence is finally revealed, we get to see nice guy Alan Alda do some of the worst overacting of his distinguished career. I know I've ruined the suspense of Whispers in the Dark by telling you that Alan Alda did it, but don't worry, I've done you a favor.
I did not see Whispers in the Dark.
I pleaded with
I
you.
was on vacation. You went to see it. You said, please see this movie. You will never see a worse movie. And
you'll never see a worse scene.
Of course, the law of economy of characters would indicate that Alan Alda did it anyway, because you don't have a big star and have him in the movie only to find out that he didn't do it. So that was kind of predictable. When we come back, more of the year's worst movies.
I'm Leslie Zebo.
Tuna? I hope that dolphin's safe. Joe, how long do you think she can be out of the water?
Oh, I'm so glad he finally discovered her.
Continuing our special show devoted to the worst films of '92, how many have you seen and why? Well, my next choice is a new release called Toys with Robin Williams as the sweet son of a toy manufacturer. His dead father's toy factory is in danger of being transformed by his uncle, a career military man who isn't impressed by Williams' whimsical style.
Quick, save yourself from these appetizers from hell. Quick, run. Tell the village. Oh, look at that. Stand back, it's going to spit. I can't control myself any longer.
How do you do that?
Magnets. It's one of Dad's favorite novelty items.
You're as big a fool as your father ever was.
You really think so? Thank you.
One of the problems with toys is that Robin Williams' contemporary patter seems totally inappropriate for the childlike character he's playing, and the story moves at a snail's pace, a toy snail's pace. The message of the film is inane, toys are good, weapons are bad. All creativity stopped with the impressive set design here. I was actually stunned at how unfunny Toys was.
Now, this one I have to disagree with you on. I also voted thumbs down on it, but I don't think it's one of the year's worst films, and I think that just the look of the film alone.
Well, Roger, but you know what? I think that they start with the look, and that's compartmentalized and given over to someone else, a set designer, and a good one. But then, why would they make this story? Barry Levinson, the director here, a fine director, said he's wanted to make this story for 12 years. Didn't you think you could come up with an idea in it in 12 years?
That's what I said on my review on our program. The next movie on my list of the year's worst films also featured a big-name star, and in this case there was real disappointment because Sean Connery is usually fun to watch in almost any role, but he sure wasn't fun in Medicine Man. The movie had the elements of a fascinating story about an eccentric scientist in the South American rainforest who discovers a cure for cancer, but that wasn't enough, and they had to go and turn it into a package of cliches about relationships. A woman scientist, played by Lorraine Bracco, turns up to oversee his work, and before long, they're fighting like Dagwood and Blondie.
You from Ashton? They sent you?
I tell you, they sent a girl.
They sent a girl?
Yes.
I'm not a girl.
The hell you're not.
I'm your research assistant.
The hell you are.
That's formula stuff. Another problem with Medicine Man is that it didn't think the audience was very smart. When Connery finds and then loses the secret of his cancer cure, every single member of the audience knows immediately what his mistake was, what he did wrong, what he should do next. But it takes him the rest of the movie to figure it out. Now, I don't know about you, Gene, but in movies about scientists, I like it to be at least as smart as the people in the audience.
Well, I think that the biggest problem is the bickering that you talked about, because, you know, here, and this is, again, a real slam on women. They have a woman scientist. All right, now you have to be pretty smart to be a scientist. Why does she turn into a ninny down in the jungle? Because it's Sean Connery, I guess. And so they bicker, and it is silly. And the reason why we would go to see this film, frankly, the only reason to see the film is because the trees are beautiful.
The trees and that little hammock arrangement they have for flying around.
The rest is ridiculous.
Coming up next, more of the worst of '92, including films with Sylvester Stallone and Tom Selleck.
Ready to go.
How long is he just going to lay there like that?
I don't know. He stopped talking, too.
Oh. Whoa.
That's Tom Selleck in Folks, not only one of the worst, but certainly one of the most inexplicable movies of the year. The movie starred Selleck as a man down on his luck and financially strapped. His devoted old parents offer to bail him out by killing himself so he can accept the insurance. And since they're about it, their rope anyway, he accepts their kindly offer, leading to would-be hilarious scenes like this one, in which his dad, played by Don Amici, almost gets killed backing up into traffic.
I've got a good idea.
Stop the car!
You're going backward. Good, good.
Give me the key! Get out! Get out!
Another amazing scene in Folks is when Selleck took his parents into a gas station and started filling up the back seat of their car with gas so he could then set them on fire. What in the world were they thinking of when they green-lighted this movie? Even assuming that it might have worked as a very, very dark, very, very sick comedy, Tom Selleck was obviously the wrong actor for it because he comes across as such a nice guy. You see Selleck on the screen, you like him. He ought to be playing heroes. He can't play a convincing creep. With this screenplay, even James Woods would have had to reach for it.
I think that's true. It is a stunning film. I think it was written by the same people that did Where's Papa? And so you can see what the dark humor there, but the dark humor in that film was about a mother and a son. That's not the, verbally antagonistic. Here, the physical joke is
your
so
sweet
brutal.
old parents, and you say, come on, folks, let's go down to the gas station. I'll fill up your car with gas and set you on fire. It's really hard to understand What comic approach would have been appropriate to make that funny?
I remember also when the film came out, there was a tragic accelerator accident, you know, in New York City.
Yeah.
Right around. I mean, this is not probably the thing to be joking about with old people. Okay, my next lousy movie is another failed comedy, and when there are no laughs in a comedy, it can get real ugly inside a movie theater, and that's the kind of loathing I felt toward Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, in which the central gag is that big tough Sylvester Stallone has a small, even tougher mother played by Estelle Getty from the Golden Girls. Here's the humor as she misunderstands and dominates him.
Breakfast!
Mom!
Oh, please, you don't have anything I haven't seen before.
Mom, would you turn around, please? Both of you? God!
Pete and I thought we'd pop into the station this afternoon, you know, see where you work, meet a few of your friends.
Ow!
Did you cut yourself?
No!
Do you need some iodine?
No, Mom, no!
And he must whine at her mom at least a half-dozen times in this picture, a would-be action comedy in which Stallone battles mobsters. Again, I think all creativity stopped with simply the casting in this picture. And even that didn't work. I didn't believe for a second that these two actors even remotely liked each other. They were in Stop or My Mom Will Shoot just to cash a check, I'm sure.
And once again, they're probably, you know, the funny thing about a comedy is you can't know until it's all over that it's not funny, because this material could probably have been handled by different actors, a different director, and a different screenplay.
There you go.
In such a way that it might have been funny, but in this case, they struck out all three times.
No, I just think that really said, hey, we got Stallone, and then we'll take Estelle Getty.
Oh, that's funny, yeah.
End of
At which point
creativity.
somebody in the boardroom should have said,
yeah, what are
why is that funny?
Yeah.
Coming up next, more bad films, including two by the great Woody Allen and Marlon Brando.
Father.
92. I don't want to be accused of kicking a man while he's down, but watching Woody Allen's Shadows and Fog early in the year was one of the most aggravating experiences I had in 1992. His was a labored attempt at creating a German expressionist film, and unlike his Love and Death, his send-up of Russian novels, there simply weren't any laughs in Shadows and Fog. He pretty much played it straight in the story of a paranoid nebbish who was under suspicion of murder.
The Quilty sisters were killed in their own home because they didn't lock the door. Throats cut from ear to ear.
I thought you said he was a strangler.
Does it matter how he killed?
He's so angry. What is he getting so angry for? Okay, and there's no motive?
So you know about it.
Well, you know, I hear now and then the drib and drab.
He hears what he wants to hear.
Get dressed.
I think the sole pleasure for Woody Allen on this project had to be the set design. He could fancy himself as director F.W. Murnau back in the 30s making a picture, but meanwhile, he stuck us with a pointlessly dreary stories. Shadows and Fog was dreadful.
It was. Unfortunately, it was. There's just no way around it. And even looking at the pictures on the screen, you just wonder why not go out and rent M or Nosferatu or something and enjoy the real thing. Yeah. Next on my list of the year's worst films is Christopher Columbus, The Discovery, which told the story of Christopher Columbus's historic voyage in terms of the formula, the costume dramas of the 1940s. And what the explorers mostly found on the other shore was the heaving bosom of the chief's pretty daughter. And this is a movie in which the heaving bosom of the chief's pretty daughter is really just about the only thing on the screen that you can stand to look at. This is a movie that doesn't have a clue what it thinks about Columbus, America, whether or not the earth is flat, or anything else except how to recycle cliches from earlier and much better movies about swashbuckling navigators. What, for example, can you make of this dialogue?
There are your spices. Have your pick. My things. Stick to your profession. Beware the Genoese and shun the devil.
That's a French actor named George Corrafas in the title role, which he occupies as if he were a fashion model. He looks great, he has a terrific smile, his teeth are brushed, but if he were leading me across the street, I'd be afraid I'd fall off the other curb. The supporting cast is headed by Marlon Brando, but Brando sulks about the set looking moody and delivering his lines with the absolute minimum of energy necessary to be audible to the camera. It's the worst performance of his career, which means it's right at home in Christopher Columbus, The Discovery, the first of this year's Columbus
Yeah, and I
pictures.
think that the criticism of it, although I didn't think the second film on Columbus, 1492, was a great picture.
It's sure better than this.
Boy, at least it had an attitude about him. It had an attitude toward colonialism. It had an attitude toward the joy of discovery. You felt the man was at least at risk on the voyage and then in the new land. None of that here. This was a storybook.
The one thing this movie did do was to provide us with an entirely new piece of history, which is that Columbus told his men, look, if we don't sight land in 3 days, you can cut off my head. And of course, his head is down on the block when they sight land. Just saves him with minutes to spare. It's amazing that that anecdote never made it into history books before this movie.
When we come back, Roger and I will reveal both of our personal selections for the absolute worst films of 1992. You thought you saw a bad
program about the worst films of 1992, when we each picked the year's absolutely worst film, and for me, that would have to be Shining Through. There have been a lot of unlikely thrillers over the years about spies behind enemy lines, but Shining Through has got to be the most implausible and is my choice for the year's worst film. It starred Melanie Griffith as the secretary for Michael Douglas, who is apparently a lawyer, but as she figures out right away by looking at some papers on his desk, he's really a spy. Not a very good spy either. She is perfectly bilingual in English and German, and so when World War II breaks out, she wants a job behind Nazi lines. And to prove she could fool the Nazis by going undercover as a cook, she shows Douglas what a convincing strudel she can bake.
I want you to taste my strudel, the way my grandmother taught me to make it, and my apple compote. She taught me to cook German style, the way my grandfather likes it. And I could cook for 50 if I had to. 5 courses, the way they do it in Berlin. And on nights when they didn't have people over, I could bring tea and strudel up to the Drescher's study and put a little schnapps in the tea so that Horst and Hedda would get tired and would retire early, and I could be left alone in the study to clean up. This is not about you and me, damn it. I want to do something important with my life.
Shining Through didn't just stretch credibility, it redefined it. I especially like the repeated scenes where the Douglas character, who speaks no German whatsoever, travels all over Germany on 4 or 5 different trips simply by wearing a bloody bandage around his neck and holding up a card saying he can't speak because of his neck wound. Of course, in order to give the appropriate nonverbal responses, he'd at least have to be able to understand German, but this movie didn't have time for real subtle points like that.
And then, of course, there's the conclusion where we see the all-time movie cliche is that you don't shoot a bullet over a border. I mean, if you can make it across a border, you're absolutely safe. Nobody ever takes the risk.
So he's got her in his arms. He has a bullet in one leg. They keep shooting at him. They're lousy shots. And they've got the border marked with a chalk stripe like the end goal, end line in a football field. If he can make it across that line, he's home free.
At that point, the audience, whatever audience was there, and it wasn't many, when I saw it, is roaring. Okay, I think I can top you. Just calm down. My choice of the single worst film of 1992 is Frozen Assets. Actually, I'm going to tell its story.
That's true,
We had a coin flip on this one. Roger hated it too. I won the right to skewer this picture. He knows it's worse than Shining Through.
It probably is. Yes, I would concede that.
Okay.
Yes.
What we have here, again, is a comedy without laughs. As Corbin Burnson plays a hapless executive sent to fix up a failing bank, and guess what? He doesn't know it, but you're not going to believe this, but it's a sperm bank. Naturally, he and the sperm bank technician, Shelley Long, hate each other at first sight, which of course means they're going to fall for each other eventually.
Everybody thinks I'm so straight and narrow. And I'll tell you, from the first moment I laid eyes on you, I wanted to jump your bones.
My mouth was agape during much of this picture. I couldn't believe it. This film seemed like it was directed in slow motion. The jokes clunked. I can't believe that Corbin Burnson and Shelley Long, stars of 2 hit TV shows, L.A. Law and Cheers, didn't know that there wasn't a genuine laugh here. The timing was all off, way too slow. I was embarrassed for them even though they were getting paid. This was stunning.
Frozen Assets was truly in a category all by itself. Now, earlier in the year, you were begging me to go to the Alan Alda picture.
Yes, and
because you felt that I needed it as a kind of a critical touchstone so that I would know what was good and what was bad. I think that people should probably go to see Frozen Assets, and maybe if they have time, Shining Through, rent them on video, in order to know, you know, sometimes people come up to you on the street and say, how could you give that movie a good review? And the answer could be, have you seen Frozen Assets?
You know, I think that what we have here is possibly a bad film festival for people to rent.
That would be, yes. Especially if you have a lot of friends over and you hope they'll all go home.
You just put on Folks in the cassette. That'll clear the room.
Okay.
That's it for this week. Next week we'll be back with a special show, Siskel and Ebert's Memo to the Academy. The ballots for Oscar nominations are going to be sent out next Friday, and Roger and I are going to take the opportunity to remind the Academy voters of some of the films and performances that they shouldn't overlook as they make their nominations. And we'll remember back to months like January and February that they have long forgotten. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
Going to rent a movie this week? Then you'll need the 1993 edition of Roger Ebert's Movie Home Companion. Full-length reviews, interviews. It's America's favorite jelly bean, Jelly Belly, now appearing at theaters and video stores with good taste. Jelly Belly beans, try them, you'll love them. Coracidin, for use at the first sign of a cold or flu. It'll relieve all your major symptoms fast and help keep them from getting worse. Coracidin D, the sooner the better. St. Ives Swiss Formula Collagen Elastin Lotion. St. Ives Swiss Formula soothes and softens dry skin instantly, naturally. St. Ives Swiss Formula.
Television.